They said a Filipino accent would never sound professional enough for American television. But right now, at this very moment, millions of Americans are listening to news delivered in a voice shaped by the Philippines, and they don't even realize it. Turn on CNN, switch to MSNBC, scroll through YouTube news channels. Listen carefully. That clear, warm, effortlessly neutral tone, there's a good chance it's been influenced by Filipino English. Not borrowed, not copied, influenced. Because something extraordinary is happening in American newsrooms, and it all traces back to a small archipelago in Southeast Asia that quietly became the voice the world trusts most. Let me take you back to where this really began. It started more than 120 years ago when American colonizers arrived in the Philippines with textbooks, teachers, and a mission to spread English across the islands. Within decades, the Philippines transformed into one of the most English-proficient nations on earth. But Filipinos didn't just learn English. They refined it. They stripped away the harshness, softened the edges, added rhythm and melody. The result? An accent that feels like conversation, not confrontation. Professional, but never cold. Clear, but never robotic. And that tone, that specific combination of warmth and clarity, is exactly what modern news broadcasting needs. Think about it. When you're delivering breaking news about disasters, elections, or global conflicts, you need a voice that people can trust. A voice that doesn't sound biased toward any particular American region. A voice that feels universal. Filipino English checks every single box. Fast forward to the early 2000s. American companies started outsourcing customer service to the Philippines. At first, it was just about cost. But then something unexpected happened. American customers preferred Filipino agents, not because they sounded American, but because they sounded better than American. Calmer, kinder, easier to understand. When someone called angry and frustrated, a Filipino voice didn't escalate. It soothed. The Philippines became the call center capital of the world, employing over 1.3 million people in the business process outsourcing industry worth $26.7 billion. Corporate executives took notes. If this tone works in crisis calls, what else could it work for? Everything. Media producers, podcast hosts, YouTube creators. They all started noticing the same pattern. When they hired Filipino voice talent, audience engagement went up, complaints went down, the content felt more accessible. Why? Filipino English sits in a sweet spot that almost no other accent occupies. It's not too British, not too Southern, not too coastal. It doesn't remind Americans of any specific region, so it doesn't trigger unconscious bias. It just sounds right. News producers started noticing this. When they hired Filipino journalists, voiceover artists, or broadcast trainers, something clicked. The content felt more credible, more trustworthy, more global. That neutrality became gold in an industry desperate to reach diverse audiences across America and beyond. And here's the beautiful irony. For decades, Filipinos were told their accent wasn't American enough. Now, American broadcasters are learning to sound more like them. Voice coaches across the United States now teach what they call a neutral broadcast accent. But listen closely to what they're actually teaching. Gentle, measured pacing. Clear enunciation without overemphasis. Warm but professional tone. Balanced rhythm that sounds inclusive. Sound familiar? That's Filipino English, repackaged, rebranded, but unmistakably Filipino at its core. You might not know their names yet, but they're there. Cher Calvin has anchored Emmy Award-winning newscasts on KTLA in Los Angeles since 2005. Francis Rivera co-anchors NBC's Early Today, broadcasting to millions of Americans every morning. Christina Adencial anchors Fox 5 News in San Diego, serving one of the largest Filipino-American communities in the United States. These aren't token hires. These are lead anchors, prime time, major markets. And viewers trust them, not despite their Filipino roots, but because of the clarity and warmth that comes naturally to Filipino English speakers. But the influence goes deeper than individual success stories. It's changing the entire sound of American news. Here's where it gets even more fascinating. When tech companies build AI voice assistants, they need data sets. Thousands of hours of clear, neutral, emotionally balanced speech. And where do they find the best examples? Filipino English speakers. The same vocal patterns used by millions of call center agents, teachers, and broadcasters are now being fed into machine learning models. So when Alexa reads you the news, when Siri gives you directions, when ChatGPT's voice mode speaks to you, there's a chance the tonal foundation came from Filipino speech data. The Philippines isn't just shaping how humans communicate, they're shaping how machines communicate. Think about that for a moment. Every time an AI voice assistant delivers information to billions of people worldwide, it might be using pronunciation patterns, rhythm, and tonal qualities derived from Filipino English. The accent that was once dismissed as not professional enough is now literally programming the future of global communication. Let's dig into the why. Language isn't just words and grammar, it's energy. And Filipino English carries a specific energy that builds trust faster than almost any other variety of English. It's the energy of respect without submission, confidence without arrogance, professionalism without coldness. Linguists have studied this. Filipino English has what's called syllable-timed rhythm. Each syllable gets roughly equal emphasis. This creates a smooth, predictable flow that feels calming to listeners. Compare that to the stress-timed rhythm of American English, where some syllables are emphasized heavily while others are barely pronounced. That creates a more aggressive, punchy delivery. For news, for education, for customer service, the Filipino rhythm wins every time. When Filipino teachers educate millions of students worldwide, when Filipino nurses explain medical procedures, when Filipino customer service agents solve problems, they do it in a voice that makes people feel heard. And in journalism, that's everything. News isn't just about delivering facts. It's about making people believe the facts, trust the source, stay watching, and Filipino English does that naturally, without effort, because it evolved in a culture that values connection over confrontation. Today, the influence spreads in ways most people never notice. American students take online English lessons from Filipino tutors, millions of them, every single year. They absorb the pacing, the clarity, the warmth. Years later, some of those students become journalists themselves. They carry those speech patterns into newsrooms across the country. YouTube creators hire Filipino voice actors to narrate documentaries because their retention rates are higher. People simply listen longer when the voice feels approachable. Filipino English teachers work across East and Southeast Asia, in South Korea, Japan, Thailand, and China. They're teaching the next generation of English speakers worldwide. The cycle continues. The influence deepens. This isn't about Filipinos taking over American news. It's about something more profound. For over a century, the Philippines adapted to Western culture. They learned English to communicate with colonizers. They modified their accents to work in Western companies. But now, the West is adapting to them, not through force, not through lobbying or quotas, through pure communication excellence. The Filipino approach to English, clear, kind, confident, has proven so effective that it's becoming the model. News channels want it. AI companies want it. Voice coaches teach it. Audiences respond to it. And maybe that's the most beautiful part of this story. The Philippines didn't need to shout to be heard. Their voice traveled naturally, carried by empathy and skill, until it reached the studios where America gets its news. So tonight, when you turn on the evening news, pay attention. Notice the pacing, the warmth in the anchor's voice, the way they pronounce certain words with perfect clarity but no pretension. You might be hearing an American-born anchor who trained their voice using methods influenced by Filipino speech patterns. You might be hearing a Filipino-American journalist who brings their heritage's communication style to the desk. Or you might be hearing someone who simply learned that this is how good broadcasting sounds now. Because Filipino English didn't just enter American newsrooms. It helped redefine what American news sounds like. The sound of trust, the sound of clarity, the sound of connection, the sound that's changing how the world communicates, one broadcast at a time. If this story opened your eyes to something you never noticed before, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're Filipino, remember this. Your voice isn't something to hide or change. It's something the world is learning from. Your accent is the future of global communication. That's not an aspiration. That's a fact happening right now, every single day in newsrooms and living rooms across America and the world.